to remain loyal in. If you're taking notes, here it comes. The first one is that he embraced purity. Early in Joseph's story, in chapter 39, we find him working. He's a very successful, very handsome young slave, and he's been betrayed by his family, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and he ends up at the home of a man named Potiphar, who is a very influential person in the country of Egypt. And Joseph's very good looking, and he's very successful because God is with him. He honors God even though life has been unfair to him. Well, Potiphar has a wife. Potiphar's wife notices Joseph. She's much older than he is. We would call her a cougar today. And she's on the prowl. She has noticed him. She has taken a liking to him, and she is actively pursuing him. She's a cougar on the prowl, legitimately. And he responds to her persistent advances in chapter 39, verse 8, and I'd like to look at that with you. She keeps coming on to him, coming on to him. She is unrelentless. And he says here in this verse, he says, but Joseph refused. Look, he told her, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. Do you catch that? He's a teenager. A woman is coming on to him, and he's saying, no, it would be a great sin against God. Here is our first glimpse at heroic loyalty, embracing purity. That's some significant temptation that he was facing. But he chose to embrace purity. Now, many would understand a person who might succumb to the temptation of this kind in this setting. You know, we might rationalize it or even excuse it. Kind of like, we understand everyone's human. Maybe, well, she kept coming on to him. He's young, doesn't have the self-control. They're both good looking. It was inevitable. They're both kind of flirty, maybe. Maybe his culture permits that. Remember, he's from a neighboring country. People might think that. Joseph could have flipped it. He could have said, I've gone through this much. What does it matter if I do this? Life's been mean to me. Or maybe God brought me here for this. It really became a matter of focus. It was a matter of focus for Joseph. Titus, in the New Testament, verse 1, chapter 15, you don't have to turn there. I'm going to read it for you. It says, everything is pure to those whose hearts are pure, but nothing is pure to those who are corrupt and unbelieving, because their minds and consciences are corrupted. Everything is pure to those whose hearts are pure. It all depends upon your focus. It depends on what we're looking for. Where I grew up outside of Clayton on Morgan Territory Road, and we had land, and it was the best setting that I could have grown up in. And I was outside as much as possible. And eventually, when I grew into my young manhood, I was awarded a BB gun for my right, and then eventually I graduated to pellet gun and then shotgun. But most days, when I had free time after I was done with the roller rink, then I would go outside and we would shoot at things and, target practice, all that kind of stuff. And I learned, and I noticed this still happening today, I learned my eyes have been trained to look for little movements and little birds flying or lizards scurrying or what have you. I noticed things far away. Even when I got my eyes checked, it came out I needed to get glasses a few years back, I was farsighted. So it seems like everything within my biology works good at long distances. Well, that's great if I'm outside. However, I go inside the house. Hey, Andrea, where's the ketchup? I say after 5 minutes of looking through the cupboards, and the answer is, are you serious? It's literally right in front of your face. I cannot tell you, I don't know if any of you can relate to this. All the time, I will spend countless moments looking for something that's right literally in front of me, and I'm looking at the back row being like, I thought it was back here as I move it to find something else. My eyes have been trained just because of, I guess, the way I grew up or whatever, to look at things far away, my outside eyes. But my inside eyes don't look so good because I haven't taught myself to look at things up close. It all depends on what I grew up looking for, what I trained myself to look for. Joseph was doing the same thing. Joseph was looking for, he was looking for opportunities to show God he was loyal. Let me ask you, are you looking for a reason to indulge or to cheat? Or are you looking for an opportunity to embrace integrity and purity? Are you looking for a website to feed your lusts or to feed your holiness? Are you looking for a way to gain control over someone or to serve someone? Joseph was looking for opportunities to show God that he was loyal even though life had been cruel to him. He didn't see this as an opportunity for momentary pleasure, but an opportunity for monumental purity. Many of us, I think, have the same view of purity that St. Augustine of Hippo held. He's quoted as saying, "Give me chastity and give me continency, but not yet." In other words, give me purity, give me self-restraint, but give it to me tomorrow. Let me have today for myself. To procrastinate in our purity only depreciates our strength and our value. Thomas à Kempis wrote, "By two wings a man is lifted up from things earthly, by simplicity and by purity." When we procrastinate or give up on our purity, we are lowering our value. But when we hold on, embrace our purity, God helps us to rise above. Joseph's life didn't look like that at first, but when you see the end and the outcome, it definitely rose above every other life you could imagine, except maybe Pharaoh. Are you allowing yourself to aspire to the purity Joseph embraced? I hope that you would, and I'd want to challenge you that you would. So the first thought was that Joseph embraced purity. Here's the second action that showed his loyalty. He cultivated perseverance. In chapter 39, verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. I'm impressed with Joseph. If I had been sold into slavery, I would be mad. I would not be like, "I will work as hard as I can for you," random person who somehow has ownership over me even though I don't like it. Joseph was the opposite. Joseph persevered. I would look for every means of escape. That's just me. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I'm just telling you what I would do. The Lord was with Joseph. He succeeded. Genesis 39, verse 23, later on, after these advances from Potiphar's wife, he's put into prison because he's been framed for attempted rape. And he's in prison, and it says here in verse 23, the warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. That's amazing. More wrong on top of more wrong, and he still perseveres. He still acts right. In prison. If I was in prison, I would be mad. I would not be like, "Let's clean this place up and get it organized and efficient." I would be like, "Get me out of here right now. I want my lawyer." And I think probably most of us would, especially if we were wrongfully in prison. Genesis 45:5, later at the end of his story, after years and years of hardship and pain, and after he's been promoted, after his family, now they're back in Egypt, and he has set things on a course. God has brought him to a place. He has made decisions that is saving the world. And his brothers are here, the people who initiated the pain in the first place. They're in his face, and he says, "But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives." That is perseverance. I got goosebumps. I don't know about you. That hit this side of my face. Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist and also a Holocaust survivor in World War II, he wrote, "A man who becomes conscious of the responsibility he bears toward a human being who affectionately waits for him or to an unfinished work will never be able to throw away his life. He knows the why for his existence and will be able to bear almost any how." In other words, and this is a man who did it. He's talking from his own experience. He had a why to live. He had a person. He had a wife in another camp somewhere else, and he had an unfinished work. Joseph had these very same things. For Joseph, cultivating perseverance was a way of life, of thought, and of practice. It was his divine calling to persevere. It was his why for living that fueled his perseverance through all the hows of life. How am I going to make it through slavery? How am I going to make it through prison? He wouldn't quit because he felt he couldn't quit. What about you? Have you ever been in a place like that? Have you ever felt like you wanted to give up on something, but if you did, the world would be missing something that it needed?